Amen. All right. Well, if you saw my video on the 8 super signs, then you know that I mentioned Planet X. But we didn't talk much about it, so we're going to take a couple of sessions to talk about Planet X. You may have heard of it, you may not have heard of it. It doesn't matter, because today will be an introduction to the search for Planet X. I'm going to cover a lot of biblical events without going into any explanation or details. So I am assuming that you have some knowledge and foundation of biblical events. If you don't, you can catch up using the curriculum that we've taught in our church twice now, the 4,000 years of history, and it takes you from creation to Christ in 12 hours. And the reason we do that is because it's impossible to understand the end without the beginning. It's impossible to understand prophecy without history. So this is history that God has given us, and it's relevant. It helps us to understand eschatology. Okay, why should Christians care about Planet X? I want to give you an introduction to the planets for those who don't know astronomy. Then we're going to give you an introduction to miracles to those who don't know theology. Then we're going to combine the two to understand biblical, what I call biblical astronomy, or scientific miracles. Does that sound fun and interesting? I hope so. I hope you'll be paying attention the whole time, because it will all come together at the end. This is one of those messages where you really need to see the pieces come together. So stick with it. This is not one of those videos you want to watch for just like 5-10 minutes. You want to just pay attention the whole way. All right, let's go to the planets. There are 6 planets that are visible to the naked eye. Therefore, they were never discovered because they've been known since ancient times. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The 7th planet was discovered in 1781 and was given the name Uranus. Uranus is the creator god in Greek mythology, and I think these numbers are all significant. Okay? The meaning of numbers are covered in my book, The Divine Code. 7 is the number of God. And the first planet to be discovered was the 7th planet. It's like the fingerprint of God there that He wants to be discovered. He's made things to be discovered, including Himself. He's not trying to make it difficult. But Uranus was discovered in 1781, and scientists found something strange. Uranus was not behaving according to their mathematical models or their expectations. It was perturbed. So a scientific term I want to teach you is perturbation, which means the complex motion of a body subject to forces other than the gravitational attraction of a single other massive body. In other words, the motion is not simple, it's complex. Therefore, it hints at other forces tugging at it. What would you do if you didn't understand the behavior of a planet? I can think of 3 options. Number 1, would you say, Uranus, you're wrong? Or you could say, our model based on Newton's law of gravitation is wrong. Our assumption is wrong, which may be true, because now people are opening up to the idea that the strong force in the universe is not gravitation. We've always known that. But the electromagnetic force is much stronger, and so we live in an electric universe, not a gravitational universe. So maybe the model is wrong. Or we say, third option, the model is right. Newton's law of gravitation is basically right, and this suggests the mass of an unseen planet. And so the 8th planet, Neptune, was discovered in 1846 because scientists took the third option. Neptune's discovery was a vindication of Newton's law of gravitation, although it doesn't explain everything. And sometimes I wish people would treat the Bible with the same wisdom that we do the planets. What do I mean by that? The Bible is something to be discovered. It's something to be mined. It's not something that you read once and you can just say, you know what, I basically know the Bible. For instance, what would you do if you didn't understand a verse in the Bible? Would you say, Bible, you're wrong? A lot of people say that. Or you could say, my understanding of the Bible must be wrong. Or third option, there is another verse waiting to be discovered, tugging on this verse. Give you an example. In Luke chapter 14, verse 26, Jesus said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple." And a lot of people read that and they feel perturbed. They think, well, what's wrong with this? Is God teaching Christians to hate their parents? Well, what do you need to do? Instead of accusing the Bible as wrong, you say, I need to put this in the context of other verses. For instance, Jesus said in Matthew chapter 10, verse 37, "He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." So the word hate obviously has to be put into that context. It just simply means to love someone more than. You go to John chapter 19, verse 26 to 27, you find the heart of Jesus. What was he like? Was he a mother hater? Did he dislike his parents? Of course not. When he was suffering excruciating pain on the cross, he didn't think about himself like most of us would. Look at what Jesus said. "When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, 'Woman, here's your son.'" In modern English, "Here's your son." And then he said to the disciple, "There's your mother." And from that hour, that disciple took her to his home. So John basically adopted Mary as his mother and took care of her until the end of her life. So what was Jesus really saying in the first verse that we read? Simply put, God must be number one. See, some people use their love for family as an excuse to not come to church. Don't do that, Jesus is saying. Some people are willing to give money to their parents or to their children, but not to missions or God's work. And Jesus is saying, put God first, and then you can still do the rest. Amen? But God deserves to be number one. Can you say amen? Amen. Good. All right, so Neptune's orbit, once they discovered Neptune, also had perturbation, which led to the search for the ninth planet. There it is. The ninth planet, Pluto, was discovered in 1930. However, as you all would have heard, back in 2006, Pluto was demoted, too small, and now we call Pluto not a planet, but a dwarf planet. So there remains 8 planets. This is what our current model of the solar system looks like. 8 planets, and then 5 dwarf planets, named Ceres, Pluto, Makemake, Haumea, and Eris, which is the farthest, but the biggest one. Okay, so if you didn't know that that's where we live, this is our home. We live in the solar system, and this is what it looks like to us currently. Happy? Didn't lose anyone? Good, all right. So then the search continues. Based on real hardcore science, we have found some planets out there and planetoids, dwarf planets, but we haven't accounted for what is perturbing Uranus and Neptune. So we sent out Pioneer 10 on the 3rd of March 1972, I believe to find out this extra body. They say the mission was to study the outer solar system. Unfortunately, we lost contact with Pioneer 10 on the 23rd of January 2003. So it's gone. Battery's out. We then sent Voyager 1 on the 5th of September 1977. And it actually entered interstellar space on the 25th of August 2012. So we've got something, the farthest thing out there made by man is Voyager 1. Interestingly, that this time when we sent it with a golden record to communicate with aliens. So for those of you who don't believe that NASA and these guys have an alien agenda, you got to ask yourself, why did they send a record made of pure gold with a message for extraterrestrial life? And they did it again with Voyager 2, which was sent a few days earlier on the 22nd of August 1977. It was sent before, but it's called Voyager 2. Why is that? Because they knew it would move slower. So Voyager 1 has overtaken Voyager 2. Now slow, by the way, how slow is slow? Voyager 2 is traveling very slow at 15 kilometers every second. Think about that. It's mind-boggling. Voyager 1 is traveling at over 17 kilometers per second. So every time I go like this, it's just gone phew, another 17 kilometers. And it also carries a second golden record to communicate with aliens. We're not making this stuff up. So Voyagers 1 and 2 are out there in this trajectory. And according to military sources, President Eisenhower, in his second term in office, was briefed about the existence of the 10th planet. And Pioneer 10, Voyagers 1 and 2 were sent to triangulate the location of planet X. This is not something that we alone are aware of. Back in 1983, there was news. New York Times is, the biggest newspaper at that time. And they reported on the 30th of January, 1983, something out there beyond the farthest reaches of the known solar system seems to be tugging at Uranus and Neptune. The force suggests a presence far away and unseen, a large object that may be the long-sought planet X. Washington Post says, mystery heavenly body discovered. Actually, they made an announcement that they discovered this. It's kind of like a slip-up, because after they said this, it just vanished. The news vanished. But this is what it says on the 30th of December, 1983, a heavenly body possibly as large as the giant planet Jupiter has been found in the direction of the constellation Orion by an orbiting telescope aboard the U.S. infrared astronomical satellite. It's very important that it's an infrared because it's a dark planet, so it's hard for everybody to find. Infrared telescopes can find them. Now, this is Dr. Jerry Neubauer of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He's quoted as saying, all I can tell you is, we don't know what it is. And after this statement, the news of it just disappeared. But it keeps resurfacing. This is the National Geographic says new planet found in our solar system, ? Reported on the 11th of May, 2012. Just a few days ago, just as I was preparing this, I thought, man, confirmation, because two news articles came out. Number one, InfoWars, Alex Jones interviewed Bob Fletcher. And when I quote newspapers or internet sources, I'm not endorsing everything they say. I'm just saying it's in the news. Alex Jones interviewed Bob Fletcher, the investigative reporter who uncovered weather control technology back in 1985 when nobody believed that was possible. Now we know China used weather control technology to keep the rain away from the Olympics. Right? So there are things going on which a good reporter would be able to find, but at the first, revelation of it, it just seems absurd, it seems ridiculous, but now it's not. Well, the same investigative reporter now says that he believes Planet X is coming back and the U.S. government is actively preparing for it. And this was quoted on the 23rd of September. So you can just count the days, only a few days ago. All right, also on the same day, I don't know why, but it just happened this week, 23rd of September 2013, documentary filmmaker Bart Sibrel wrote, I was first told about Planet X by a high-ranking source at NASA in or about 1989. Now let me read you a quote from what Bart says. And we're in touch, actually I'm in touch with these reporters, the astronomers. I've actually been communicating with them. So I'm getting this information firsthand. Bart said, they said, this is the NASA source, its dramatic gravitational effects would cause apocalyptic disasters upon the entire Earth. The planet is pitch black and near the temperature of absolute zero, requiring very specialized infrared satellites to be observed, which only the U.S. government owns, or, you know who else owns it? The Vatican. And they call it the Lucifer Infrared Telescope. Well, why did the Pope call the world's best and privately owned infrared telescope Lucifer? Because it was specifically designed to track Planet X, whose nickname is Lucifer. What does Lucifer mean? It means the day star. Well, what's a day star? It's a star that you can see in the day. So they're looking for something that won't be trackable through normal telescopes, but when it gets close enough, it's going to be able to be seen during the day. It's also called the Great Dragon, right, or the Destroyer. Hints of Planet X approaching. Well, we know that right now, this is what we know. The magnetic poles are moving at about 600 feet per day.